Is Social Security a Ponzi scheme? If you've traveled in enough libertarian circles, you've probably heard someone say this. Well, considering how much of the future projected expenditures for the US federal government is Social Security payments, it's probably worthwhile to examine these claims. So first off, what exactly is a Ponzi scheme? It got its name from an Italian immigrant named Charles Ponzi, who spent 4 years at the University of Rome, where he drank and gambled all his money away and left without getting a degree. Afterwards, he took what was left of his life savings and immigrated to the United States in 1903. He bounced back and forth between the United States and Canada for a number of years, trying numerous get-rich-quick schemes, which landed him in jail in both countries. It was in 1919 that he eventually found the scheme that would bear his name. His plan was to buy up international reply coupons, which are a special coupon for buying stamps overseas. You buy one of these coupons in one country, and in another country you can exchange this coupon for the equivalent amount of stamps. Ponzi's idea was that he would buy a bunch of these coupons in Italy, where inflation after World War I made IRCs incredibly cheap, and exchange them in the US for stamps that could then be sold below their printed value and still make a large profit. Ponzi wanted to get a loan to fund this operation, but there weren't any banks willing to put up the money for it. In order to get the money, he had to start a stock company, where he raised funds by promising people big returns on investments in a short period of time. Initially, there were high profits to be made, and as more people profited, the more people invested. However, these profits were not coming from actual investments, but coming from new investors. He used connections back in Italy to buy IRCs, but getting them back to the US, exchanging them for stamps, and then selling those stamps was going to cost more than the stamps were worth. Journalists got suspicious of Ponzi's company and began investigating and publishing articles questioning how such large profits could be made legally through the IRC scheme. These stories caused investors to panic and cash out $2 million from his company. This sudden transfer of funds forced law enforcement to look at his books, which resulted in Ponzi being arrested and the financial ruin of at least 5 banks and all of his investors. So, structurally speaking, a Ponzi scheme works like this. You have a person or a company. They offer high profits in a short period of time in exchange for your investment. The first group of people invest their money. The schemer then goes and gets more people to invest money, which he uses to pay off the original investors, some of whom decide to reinvest. That money, plus money from a new round of investors, pays off the second round of people. This scheme can keep going so long as they maintain a certain level of cash flow. If the cash flow gets too low, people can't be paid back. And if people can't be paid back, authorities get suspicious, investigate the company, and uncover that there is no actual investing going on. And that is a key part for something to be considered a Ponzi scheme. There must not be any actual investing occurring on the schemer's part. So then, how does Social Security fit into this Ponzi scheme model? To figure that out, we need to understand how Social Security works. I'd give you a history of Social Security, but I'm planning on doing that in a future video. The short version is that it was started in the 1930s during the Great Depression as part of the New Deal. All workers, except for a few segments that were politically connected, were required to join. If you're an adult who isn't getting paid under the table, then you pay a tax on every paycheck that goes to Social Security, which is supposed to help subsidize your retirement or unemployment. Social Security is often portrayed as a kind of bank account that you deposit into throughout your working life and then withdraw from in your retirement. But that's not exactly how it works. The money collected from Social Security taxes are paid to a trust fund managed by the US Treasury. This fund then pays out current Social Security beneficiaries with current revenues. Whenever more is collected in revenue than there are expenses, the trust fund is required to purchase a special government bond that is non-resellable. This procedure is why a majority of US national debt is owned by other parts of the federal government, of which the Social Security Trust Fund is one of the largest holders. And so we can see here the mechanics of Social Security are intertwined with how the national debt works, which has many, especially the more libertarian-leaning people, somewhat concerned. When Social Security was started, there were about 159 people paying into the program for every one person receiving benefits. As of 2013, there are only 2.8 people paying into it for every person receiving. This is probably the biggest argument for Social Security being a Ponzi scheme. When you look at the ratio between payouts and investing, the number of people paying in is getting smaller, while the number of people getting paid out is getting larger. And by their own estimates, the Social Security Trust Fund will begin paying out more than they take in by 2029. And so it's this funding structure that leads many people to label Social Security as a Ponzi scheme. Now, does this make Social Security an actual Ponzi scheme? Strictly speaking, no, it doesn't. As I mentioned earlier, in order for something to qualify as a Ponzi scheme, the entirety of its payouts must be made from payments made by other investors. The Social Security Trust Fund is not just funded by taxes we pay into it, it also receives revenues from government bonds. This one factor makes Social Security not fit the definition of a Ponzi scheme. However, you could argue that it is still technically a Ponzi scheme because those government bonds are repaid to Social Security with tax dollars that the same Social Security investors pay the government. This is a complex funding mechanism, and it doesn't even cover the complexities that are the U.S. national debt. If you want to know more about how the national debt could complicate Social Security payments, I have a playlist of videos you can watch by clicking the I in the upper right-hand corner. There is one big difference between a Ponzi scheme and Social Security. A Ponzi scheme is voluntary, while Social Security is not. You can't fall victim to a Ponzi scheme unless you voluntarily invest money in it. Sure, someone could come and coerce you into investing in a Ponzi scheme, but at that point it's more extortion than an actual Ponzi scheme. Social Security, on the other hand, is mandatory, and there are very few ways to get out of the program that don't involve major lifestyle changes. When you look at the payment structures for both a Ponzi scheme and Social Security, the reason a Ponzi scheme eventually falls through is because you don't have enough investors. Social Security has only lasted as long as it has because it's involuntary. Everyone pays into it regardless of whether or not you ever get paid out by it. At this point, I could very easily turn this video into a fear-stoking mini documentary about the instability of current government expenditures, but I think that's a video for another day. So is Social Security a Ponzi scheme? By the strictest of definitions, no. But then again, the funding structures are so similar that I think we should be just as concerned. If you're interested in some of the data about Social Security I used for this video, I have links in the description below. And if you're interested in learning more about Social Security and the New Deal, I have a couple Amazon affiliate links in the description to books that I think are pretty good on the subject. I would also like to thank my generous patrons whose support is helping me continue to make videos. If you want to support me as well and get special perks for doing so, then visit patreon.com/GrantHurst and sign up to become a patron. If you want to make sure you never miss a new video, then you should click that subscribe button and click the bell icon just in case YouTube's algorithm decides that you don't want to see my videos in your subscription feed anymore. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.